Last year, I was able to make over $900,000 at just 17 years old, and I'm done with all the noise online. So I finally can't wait to show you how you too can start your own clothing brand in 2026, following the exact same framework that I used. If you're serious about this, go ahead and grab a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes because we're going to dive in and go super deep. So make sure that all the information that you're taking in, that you're writing it on paper, so you can go back and see in the future whenever it comes time for you to actually start. All right, so before we get tactical and get into things, we need to address the elephant in the room. Most people fail at starting a clothing brand, and it's not because they don't have good designs or they can't find manufacturers. It's because they fail to understand these core concepts. So we're gonna look at this section on my board, and these marks that you see represent common myths that people believe. So one is first that money makes brands. And no, you don't need $10,000 to start. You don't need thousands on top of thousands of dollars to start. Really, all you need to start is with around roughly $500, and then you scale using the profits that you get from actually starting and launching a clothing brand. With that being said, myth number 2 is that people think that you need luxury to start your clothing brand, and that's not true. The reality is that niche plus marketing beats luxury with no audience every single time. Also, we're gonna look at this here on my board first, and basically what this is to help you find your niche. And you need to understand that niche is everything. The riches are in the niches, period. So I have a couple questions, and before we dive deep into these questions, I'm basically going to break it down for you. So we're gonna look at this visually. So there's broad markets like streetwear, for example, and then you have specific niches like streetwear for gym culture or anime inspired streetwear. Now, if you were to think about it, which one do you think is easier to market? Which one builds a more loyal community? And basically, what you want to keep in mind is that if you go broad, you're literally competing with everyone. If you have a specific niche, you literally own that market. You own that group and that community of people. So that's why it's so important to actually target your niche, because if you try to market for everybody, then you market to nobody. So you want to make sure that you have your niche super dialed in. So I have a couple questions here, and this is going to be, what does your brand mean to you? So basically, you're trying to figure out what your brand stands for. So this could be something like a personal belief you have, or something that you strongly live behind, or a motto, or a moral you live by. Something that means a lot to you, because at the end of the day, this is your clothing brand. This is what you're doing. This is what you're marketing. And if you're going to market to a certain niche of people, it's good that you understand that niche fully to the fullest extent. And the best way to do that is obviously by building your brand and backing and structuring your brand behind something that you strongly believe in. Because if you strongly believe in it, then you know exactly how you can market that belief to your audience. Another thing is you want to figure out what problem are you solving with your brand emotionally. So let's use my clothing brand for example. For those of you guys that don't know, I own a Christian clothing brand called Crown Saints. And the whole purpose of me starting my clothing brand is because back when I was around 15, 16 years old, I used to be super shy and not be able to go out and spread the word of God using my voice, because I was always shy. I was always nervous. I wouldn't be able to speak up loud. Not only things that I know already normally do, it was already hard for me regardless of what the topic was. And then when it came to speaking up about my faith and about Christ, it was even harder. But I was into fashion. So because I like wearing clothes, I wear clothes all the time. Of course, everybody wears clothes. Why not use the fashion that I so engravely love to push out the word of God, something that I personally struggle with? So that was a problem that I solved. So 1, my brand stands for my faith and my belief. 2, the problem I was solving is for those people that struggle with announcing their faith with their mouth. They can announce their faith by just wearing clothes. So that was an example of a problem I solved in my clothing brand. So for the clothing brand that you try to build, make sure it solves some type of problem. Let's take Marshall Clues, for example. He owns a brand called Tame Psychotic. And basically, the problem he solves for his clothing brand is he's trying to form a community and form a group of people who all believe in the same things and have the same type of core concept of their lifestyle, and like bring all of them together. So those who feel like they don't have somewhere to belong or a group of people to connect with, that's what he's trying to build and solve with his clothing brand. So that could be another example of an issue that you're solving with your clothing brand. It doesn't have to be a physical problem, but it could be like an emotional problem. Number 3 is going to be, what belief does it represent? What overall idea or concept are you trying to morally push out and showcase to the world? For my example, it's faith and my belief in Christianity and what Jesus Christ has came to do for us in this life. So that's kind of the belief I'm representing through my clothing brand. And basically something that you can use to even dial your niche down even further is that if your brand were to disappear, would anybody care? So when you think of it like this, obviously there's thousands and millions of clothing brands out there. So don't think broad. You want to think towards a niche and a certain group of people. So for example, my clothing brand, it's a young streetwear community-based clothing brand that has accumulated over 80,000 followers across all platforms. So if my brand were to disappear off the face of this planet to get to today, what group of people would mourn or miss my clothing brand? And that'll kind of help you dive deeper into the target audience you're trying to hit. So try to think of a certain group of people that'll like feel hurt if your clothing brand were to randomly disappear or go out of business, for example. So we're going to go on to this, and it's going to be figuring out what is your who. So this is kind of diving deeper into who your target audience actually is and the group of people you're going to be trying to sell to. So whenever it comes to actually figuring out your target audience and who it is you want to sell to, you're going to ask yourself a couple questions. And this is going to be, who are you trying to sell to? How old are they? What's their gender? What's their lifestyle? How do they like to move? Do they like traveling? Are they into sports? Do they like skateboarding? What type of foods do they like to eat? What are their interests? What do they like to watch? Or what do they like to do in their free time? What are certain hobbies they have? And think about their platforms. So where are they online the most? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Pinterest? What platforms are these people spending majority of their times online are? Or it could even be in-person shops. So think about what type of stores they're going to when they're going shopping in person. Are they at like Target? Are they at Macy's? Are they at DD's discounts? Think about where they spend most of their time, what they do. And then also think about their favorites. So what type of clothes are they already into? Do they like being comfortable wearing oversized baggy clothing? Are they more tight skinny jeans? Do they like more professional looking clothing like collar zips or suits and tuxedos or collared shirts? What are they into? What do they like wearing? Think about how they like to present themselves, basically. So those are some questions you can ask yourself to dial in who your niche and who your target audience actually is and things they like to do. Because at the end of the day, you're not trying to just sell clothes. You're trying to sell an overall identity. You're trying to sell a vision. You're trying to sell a lifestyle to a group and a community of people. Who do you speak for? So think about like the tone of your clothing brand. So for example, for my clothing brand, right? We're trying to speak up through clothing for the people who are shy or nervous to use their voice to preach the word of God. So whenever we're making this declaration of our faith, do we want it to be calm in a subtle way? Are we trying to be bold and loud about it? Are we trying to move more luxury or more street based? Think about it like that way, or even faith based, for example. So, and then also think about visual language. So think about what are some things your target audience or your community likes to see. So when it comes to visually, so some visual concepts for my clothing brand could be like crosses, or it could be like a tombstone where Jesus rose, or it could be a Bible. Certain visual concepts like that could be church, people praising, putting their hands up in the air, worshiping God. So think about certain visual languages. And then also think about, when it comes to tone, you can think about verbal words too. So think about what verbal words associates with your audience. So for me, this could be words such as holy or faith or Jesus or righteous, and these other words that all stick out to my target audience. Think about verbal words you could use. You want to lock in verbal words, you want to lock in visual language, and then think about some non-negotiables for your niche. So these are things that they absolutely will not like. So for me, this could be songs of people cussing or talking about lustful things or anything that is super worldly. So think about some non-negotiables for your target audience. What do they not like? What are things that absolutely go against the morals they have set for themselves and things that they believe in? So now let's get into the path of what you should actually sell first when you first want to start your clothing brand. And now when it comes to marketing, there are some certain things that you want to understand when it comes to your product. And this is going to be that your first collection doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to exist so you can actually start marketing your clothes. So too many people spend like 6 months perfecting their first designs and never launch. Unlike someone with an actually good product and amazing marketing, they start selling their pieces, and that's how they start doing 10, 20K a month before trying to perfect the designs in every way, shape possible. So whenever it comes to starting your clothing brand, you can always improve your products as you go. But when you start, all you want to be focused on is actually starting. Just make sure you keep that in mind, because you can't improve products that don't actually exist. So make sure that you actually start from somewhere and that you actually have momentum and you keep things going. But anyways, look at this section on my board that I'm showing you. Whenever it comes to creating your first 4 products, you want to start with these. This could be hoodies, t-shirts, zip-ups, sweatshirts, sweatpants, whatever you call them. And these are going to be 4 products. You're obviously not going to create 4 products. I say choose one and stick to it, and then create like 2 to 3 colorways of that product. So you're looking at around like 3 total SKUs as far as product and color wise. And the reason why you want to choose these products is because these have universal demand, which means everyone wears hoodies, everyone wears tees. We're not trying to sell an item to a niche that only like 5% of people wear. So for example, this could be like collar zips or super thick denim jackets or puffers. And also number 2, why these products are so good is because these are easy to manufacture, which means these are standard products, which means that almost every single manufacturer can produce them. It's not too complicated. There's no crazy structures, patterns, or designs. Obviously, the reason why these are also so good is because they are versatile. So if you do want to go the route of creating a super complex or a super unique structured design, you can do that with these hoodies, because not only are they good for basic wear, but you can also do a lot with them too to kind of fully showcase your unique and idea or creativity on them. Going into my main reason is going to be because these have super high profit margins, which means hoodies, you can get these for like $15 to $25. You could sell them for like 60 to 80. So you could have like 60 to 80% profit margins on these clothing with these clothes. So that's why it's super good for when you first start off, because whenever you start off, most people don't have a crazy amount of money. So they want to at least start selling their clothes, make profit back on the clothes they're selling, and immediately invest that into their clothing brand to grow and scale even more. So that's why these are good to start with, because if you're on a budget and you don't have too much to start your clothing brand, these are a perfect way to actually bring in good numbers and amazing amounts of profits that you can then use to leverage and scale your clothing brand. And reason number 4 is going to be the testing capability of these clothes. You can test designs and see how people respond to it and iterate these quickly without a huge investment. Because like I said, these are clothes that majority of people already wear and like. So if you want, you could grab these and you could post them on Instagram. You want to make sure that when you show them to people, that you show them to unbiased people. Like, don't go and show your mom that you're starting a clothing brand and be like, hey, look at this hoodie I made. Do you like it? It's your mom. Of course she's going to support you and say yes. So make sure that you're showing these to unbiased people who will actually give their honest opinion on whether they do like it or whether they don't like it. And another thing about these is going to be the sizing advantage. And it's something that most people don't talk about, but it's actually super important, especially when you do have a smaller clothing brand, because for the customer, they want consistent sizing across all products. They want detailed size charts with actual measurements, true to size reliability, and a better fit than most fast fashion brands. So for your brand, if you choose these products, size chart is going to be most likely dialed in and true to size. And basically what this does for your clothing brand is that it reduces return rates, which is a huge cost saver in the long run. It builds trust and repeat customers with your clothing brand. It differentiates you from cheap and inconsistent clothing brands. And also it creates word of mouth, which means that their stuff actually fits, or this has the perfect fit in it. Like, it wraps around my body nice. I really love this. So doing that, it would overall give you easier inventory management. It will give you more predictable manufacturing, which means like you can trust your manufacturer to actually fit these size charts, and then gives you less customer headaches and less problem when it comes to services overall in the future. So when it does come to sizing, you want to make sure that you go small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, or even extra small, medium, large, 2XL. That's what I recommend the most. And you want to make sure that you provide detailed measurements, not just chest. You want to make sure that you include shoulders, sleeves, torso, waist, whatever it is you're selling, so that someone can look at the size chart and know that when they buy it, it's going to fit perfectly on them, so they don't have to second guess themselves, which will maybe potentially lose you a conversion in the future when it comes to actually selling your clothes. Whenever it comes to making your product, make sure that you have easy sizing. And now we're once again into what value boosters are, and these are going to be things that improve the perceived value of your clothing brand. Whenever it comes to actually creating your hoodie and creating the clothes you're wearing, obviously think about the niche and the people you're selling to. If you're selling to more minimalistic people, then that means you're not going to have too much on your hoodie. But even if you're not having too much on your hoodie, there are certain things that you can do to improve the perceived value. So this could be things such as the fabric, the packaging, how they actually fit on your clothes, and the message you're selling through your clothes. So let's say, for example, like Alo, for example, this is a big, like, more minimalistic, kind of almost luxury fashion brand. And you may see their collar zips trending on TikToks, which is a plain like collar zip, and it has just the logo Ayla right here. Now, even though it's a super plain hoodie, a super plain collar zip, they do have some fabric boosters on there. Like, I believe right here is it's like a stitched on silver patch of their logo on there, which looks super nice and minimalistic. If you look at the fabric of their piece, the fabric they use for their clothes is amazing. It fits nice. Their size chart is A1, and it really just overall looks like quality clothing. Even though it's minimalistic, it looks quality. So this is why they're able to sell normal plain looking clothes for like $130, $140, because they have so much value boosters on here. So for example, for my clothing brand, I have a hoodie right here. This is going to be a plain hoodie, and this is going to be mine. So my hoodie has a lot of value boosters. The fit is super nice. It's 100% 450 GSM cotton, so it's very heavy. I have big distress embroidery printing on the front, sleeves, back, and on the hood of the clothes with sun fade. So it's super high quality. I could sell these for like 120 if I wanted to, or even maybe even 130, 140 because of my competitors. So that's why my piece, for example, is so good. And I actually have one of my clients who started, and he launched his clothing brand in 30 days. And within his first month of starting, he only made 5K with his clothing brand. But after following my blueprint and my strategies in just 90 days, he was able to do 20K in a month, which is crazy. So with that being said, once you have easy sizing, you have good perceived value with your clothes, honestly, in the long run, that'll give you a lot of repeat sales, a lot of repeat buyers, a lot of people to come back and shop with their clothing brand because they like the value and the service you're already providing them with your clothing. Now we're going to go into actually how you can make these clothes, which is going to be how you can find a manufacturer. So there are a few ways to manufacture clothes. There's a lot of different methods. First, we're going to talk about POD, and that's print on demand. So a lot of people recommend going print on demand, but I'm going to give you some advice, and you should not go print on demand when starting. You actually want to skip going print on demand. And this is going to be, the margins are terrible. Like I was saying earlier, you could get like 60 to 80% profit margins when you're selling these clothes made by a custom manufacturer. When you go print on demand, these margins are a lot less. You could get your clothes for like 35 to 40%, which is terrible compared to like 60 to 80%. You can make almost double the profit margins if you go the traditional route of getting a manufacturer. The quality is inconsistent. It's not too reliable. There's not too much you can do with the clothes. You're very limited as to changes you can make to the actual piece, and you really have no control over the customer experience. So you can't really build an actual full functional clothing brand off of POD. So the only reason why print on demand is good for some people is when they're trying to sell a product quick, or they're trying to ride a trend. Like, let's say, for example, when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, so people would make shirts about Charlie Kirk's assassination using print on demand, because these are clothes they could make in 2 days and then really get out to the community to sell. So while everybody is like super like going crazy about something or a certain event happening in the world, they see these t-shirts while they're already going crazy about it. So because of the chain of events that are already taking place, people like to profit off of this by going print on demand, so they get their clothes as quick as possible. You can't do this with the traditional route of getting a manufacturer, because with the manufacturer, you have to place your bulk order, wait like 2 to 4 weeks to make the clothes, and then it'll take like another 1 to 2 weeks to ship to you via air. So obviously, when it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get your clothes made and sent to you, obviously it's not something you can immediately push out. So by the time that means the clothes get to you, probably the hype or the chain of events already taking place are already dying down a lot, which is terrible for you. You want to immediately ride the wave, and you want to ride the hype. So that's why people go print on demand. And this leads into option 2. These are going to be overseas manufacturers such as China, Pakistan. There's other countries too, like Mexico, Turkey, but China and Pakistan are like kind of the main 2 competitors you want to use. The reason why these are so good is because you can get these a lot cheaper per unit. Like I said before, for your profit margins, you can get hoodies made for like $15 to $25 depending on how many you order, versus going print on demand where you're getting it for like $35-$40. And it's scalable to much larger quantities, which means you could buy like 1,000, 2,000 pieces, 4,000 pieces, 5,000 pieces. And obviously, like I said before, it's just more room for customizations. With print on demand, you're very limited to actually what can be done. You're most likely to just like stuck to regular screen print or DTF print on just like the front of the hoodie. With going a manufacturer route, you can create your own custom size chart, do sun fading, create a certain crop on your pieces, have specific designs, puff print mixed with embroidery if you want, or embroidery mixed with screen print if you want. It's just a lot more customization for your clothes overall, which is what you want. You don't want to create generic clothes that your customer feels like they can go walk into Walmart to buy for $15. You want to create clothes that have a lot of value boosters on them that really intrigues your customers to be like, hey, I want to buy this online, so it come in as quick as possible. But when it actually comes to actually making your clothes, you want to make sure that you order samples first. Always order samples first before requesting your bulk order. And the reason why this is good is because let's say potentially you place a bulk order for $2,000, right? And these clothes come in and it's not exactly how you want. The material is a little bit too thin for you. The graphic or the print that you wanted printed on the front of the hoodie is way too small. And there's just certain things that you want to see with your eyes in person. You want to make sure that you actually feel these clothes, you try it on, make sure the crop is nice, make sure it actually fits good, because these are some things that you can't really tell just by seeing a picture. So you want to make sure that it comes in so you can see it in person. So imagine you place a 2,000 piece bulk order for like $20,000, and then when it comes in, you look at the clothes and you realize that they were cropped way too short and the sizing was terrible. Now you just almost lost $20,000 because you didn't order a sample first, and now that the full 2,000 pieces of clothes that came in, they're all messed up. If you order one sample first, you can see the sample, you can try it out, and if there is an issue, you can say, hey, you can send a picture to the manufacturer and be like, hey, this crop on this hoodie was cut way too short, can you fix this? And he's going to remake it with the actual proper and correct size chart to actually make clothes that you can sell proudly to your target audience. Another thing is, when you're first starting off, you don't want to waste $20,000 on a bulk order, because at the end of the day, you don't even know if you can sell these clothes yet. You don't even know if your clothes have actually built up demand for your clothing brand. So you don't want to go waste $20,000 on a bulk order for your first drop, because at the end of the day, you don't even know if you can fully sell those clothes. You're just starting, right? You don't know how many people are going to actually buy and shop and support your clothing brand. So always make sure that you order samples before the bulk order. That way you can kind of like test the quality, see if it's right, and then if it's right, then you can use that sample to actually promote and make videos and take pictures for your clothing brand. But with that being said, when it actually comes time for you to place your bulk order, instead of placing like a full 2,000 piece bulk order, you want to make sure that you start off small with like 25 to 40 pieces. You don't want to go all in until you're actually verified and you're consistent and you have demand and you have hype built up for your clothing brand and your pieces. When it comes to actually placing your bulk order, you want to make sure that you don't pay the full 100% upfront. You want to make sure that you start off with like 30% at the start to start the production. And then once production is started and you're halfway through production, then you pay another 30%. And then once it's complete, then you pay the full 40%. And the reason why you want to do this is because you want to kind of make sure that your manufacturer is working as quick as possible to their capabilities. If you pay your manufacturer 100% upfront, now they have your money and they can take as long as they want to make your bulk order, because at the end of the day, they already have your money. There's no need for them to rush to actually try to produce your clothes. So that's why you pay them about 30% upfront, and then later on during the production process, you pay them the rest. Now, how you can actually find these manufacturers is you want to go on Alibaba and you want to search up the product that you're trying to sell. So if I'm trying to sell hoodies, for example, I'll go on Alibaba, I'll type a hoodie in the search bar, and then on the left hand side, you can click something called Trade Assurance. And basically what this is going to make sure that your money is protected when you work with these manufacturers. It makes it impossible for you to get scammed. A lot of people face that issue. They place a $1,000 bulk order and then their manufacturer goes silent on them and stops texting them back and they get scammed. So when you go on Alibaba and you select Trade Assurance by filtering the left hand side, it saves you that trouble and that hassle of worrying about getting scammed by manufacturer. Now that you got your products being made, now it's time for you to actually create a place to sell your products, and that's going to be by building a Shopify website. So we're going to come here to, this is my website that I use for my clothing brand, and I'm basically going to walk you through on why my website is so good and how you can create a good website for your clothing brand. So first, I'm going to tell you about the payment processor or the processor for a website you should use. It is going to be Shopify. And that's because Shopify is very cheap. It's only roughly around like $29 a month, and they actually offer you a free 3 months for $1 option. So it's super good for when you first start out, so you're not paying too much money up front to get your website being made. And it's literally built for e-commerce. It's trusted by checkout, and it's very commonly used, so people feel safe when they're buying and shopping from your clothing brand. You could easily optimize it for mobile. 99% of people that are going to be shopping for your clothing brand are going to be on their phones. So Shopify is literally optimized for the mobile experience. It's very easy to use, so if you're not tech savvy and don't know too much about coding and building a website and etc., Shopify is literally the easiest platform you can use to actually build a good website. And on top of that, it has tons of apps and tons of integrations, which means you have access to a whole bunch of different third-party apps and sources that you can use to create a good website. And on top of that, it's super professional. So literally right out the jump, without making too many changes to the website, it already looks professional from the jump. But obviously you want to make changes. So don't waste your time on Wix. Don't waste your time on Squarespace or trying to code your own website. You just want to make sure that you use Shopify. It'll save you so much time, so much stress, and so much money in the long run. Now we're going to talk about the 7 elements of what makes a good website. So one, we're going to look at my homepage, and we're going to talk about why my homepage is so good. So element number 1 to creating a good website, that you want it to be no friction, which means every extra click loses your customer. So your site needs to load fast in under 3 seconds. It needs to have a super extremely easy navigation. So that means collections are clearly labeled. You want to make sure that's mobile friendly, because 99% of your traffic, like I said before, is going to come from mobile. So make sure that it is super mobile friendly. You want to make sure that you have a one-click add to cart. You want to make sure that you have a guest checkout option, which means you don't want to force people to have to create an account, because people do that and then they end up losing their customer, because who's going to go through the whole process of creating an account, right? You want them to be able to click on your website and then go and check out as quick as possible with no headache, no stress, and no extra stuff on your website that'll cause them to lose track of what they're doing and cause them to leave your website. Here, we're actually going to go on my website. That way we can follow along and look at what makes my website so good. So as far as your homepage, you want to make sure that you have a good, clear CTA that resonates with your target audience. So for example, for my target audience, Christians, young Christians in the space, I have a clear CTA. Jesus died for us in public, so don't live for him in private. And basically what this is going to be something that entices or resonates with their target audience, that makes them feel more emotionally connected to your clothing brand, that'll overall make them want to shop. As we scroll down here, we want to make sure that we have good social proof with your clothing brand. So why should people trust and feel safe to check out from your clothing brand? So this is where social proof plays a play. So you want to make sure that you have customer photos of people wearing your products. These you get as you start selling your clothes, which means you could probably pull these from people that have tagged you on their Instagram page. You want to screenshot these. You want to make sure that you add product reviews. You can add product reviews using an app called Luke's or Judge Me. And then you want to make sure that you have a lot of trust badges. And I'm going to show you an example of trust badges that I have. So for example, my website, here's another trust badge, 5 stars by over 17,000 people that have shopped or supported my clothing brand. 100% satisfaction guaranteed, and I'm based in the US, or depending on where you sell or where your target audience is located, you want to make sure that you have that in there, so a lot of them feel like, okay, I feel safe from shopping for this clothing brand because they're in the same country that I'm in. And then even if you have 0 sales or you're just starting off and you don't have product reviews to use, you could showcase yourself by you take pictures of you wearing your product, or your friends or your family, or you could display your social media following if you have a good sufficient amount of followers. Another aspect that you can use is going to be reviews. So I'm going to show you an example of some reviews I have on my website, and this is going to be even more trust builders for your website. So for example, when you come down here, you see that I have reviews right here. So someone called my clothes perfect, rated 5 stars. The material, the design, everything was perfect. This is another aspect of my website that gives more trust and satisfaction and more reassurance to the people who are viewing your website, because they know, hey, if I buy this product, 9.9 times out of 10, I'm gonna like it because all these other people like it. So you want to make sure that your reviews are super important. And the ways you can get this is whenever it comes to your first drop, or for you about to release your clothing brand, you could offer your first 20 customers 20% off in exchange for a review. So it'd be like, hey, if you're able to buy this product and drop a review, we'll give you 20% off. And you want to make sure that when you use reviews, or testimonials, that you use picture testimonials, because these work so much better. They can see the people and they can actually see the clothes on the people, so they know that the review is true. But with that being said, let's go into what actually makes a good product page. Whenever it comes to creating a good product page, you don't want to overdo it, but you do want to provide enough information to reassure your customer and let them know completely the full details of what it is they're buying with their clothing brand. Let's come here. When it comes to photo styles, I recommend getting 3 to 4 angles of your clothes. So for example, right here I have a straight on body picture from the front. I have a 3/4 angle picture right here showing the size of my clothing brand. And then here we have a full body picture and then the flat lay angle of my clothes. So you want to make sure that you're showing multiple angles of your clothes so people know what it looks like all around, basically. So another thing is someone wearing the product, and this is to help them envision what it looks like if they're wearing the clothes. So here we have somebody in my full sweatsuit and what it will look like if they had the clothes on them as well. And that you want to make sure that you have a consistent lighting and a consistent background, because consistency shows like professionalism. So you want to make sure that your website looks professional as possible. Don't just slap on pictures you took from your floor or from your clothes hanging off your door. You want to make sure that it looks as professional as possible. I say either go the route of creating a good file lay with a nice background, or getting some nice on-body pictures inside of a studio. These are super easy, and you can even use AI and certain apps to edit the background to make it look professional. Next thing is going to be urgency boosters. So as you can see here on my website, I have a whole bunch of urgency boosters, free shipping on orders over $100, limited time. You only have 30 minutes to buy it. Plus everything 30% off. Sale ends in this amount, so people know, hey, if I'm on this website right now, I need to buy this ASAP. I have a limited time to buy these clothes for a certain amount off. So it entices them to check out because they feel like they're getting a good deal. They feel like if they shop right now, it saves them from spending an extra $20, $30. You could even put, like, whenever you first drop a product, what I like to do is I like to push it as a limited drop, meaning that we may not restock this product in the future. So that tells people, hey, I like this product. I only have one chance to buy it, because if they sell out, I'm not gonna be able to get it again. So limited drop, no more stock, works well, just like all the other urgency boosters you see. So when it comes to building my homepage, what I like to do is I like to have a hero, which is going to be a lifestyle-based image of my clothes with my CTA right below it. Here you can either show your best sellers, or you could have just a clean product grid of you showing everyone what you have on your website, which makes it easy for them to find what they want and easily add it to their cart. You want to make sure you have an email capture. Now could be a pop-up from an app using PostScripts and Klaviyo. These are super important in the future, because not only will it able to allow you to retarget customers who have already shopped with their clothing brand, it's easier to convince someone who has shopped with you it's easier to convince somebody who has already shopped with you and who has already experienced your service and your level of quality to convince an entirely new stranger to shop with your clothing brand. So getting an email or SMS pop-up for your clothing brand is good, because it allows you to bring back old customers, and you could also entice new customers to shop with your clothing brand, because you could be like, hey, if you sign up for my VIP list via SMS or email, I'll give you 10% off your first order, which is what I do. And now that your website is live, it's time to go into the social media aspect of your clothing brand, which is going to be your marketing. So now your website is live, you got the products. Now comes the most important part, which is getting people to actually see your brand. So the truth is, in 2026, content is literally everything. This is how you set yourself apart from your competitors and the other clothing brand owners in your space. So you can have the best products in the world, but at the end of the day, if nobody sees them, you won't get a single sale. So that's why social media isn't optional. It's literally the best and only way to actually grow your clothing brand. The biggest advantage that you can have over other clothing brand owners that are in the space that are making it quote unquote oversaturated is you. So for example, people don't connect with your clothing brand through logos and just lifestyle images they may see. People connect with people. So this is literally why founder-based content crushes, because it shows the authenticity behind your clothing brand. People get tired of seeing polished and corporate content. They want to see the true, authentic, and real side behind actually running a clothing brand. It builds trust. It lets people see the person behind the clothing brand. It's relatable, so you can build an audience that actually root for you and support your clothing brand and what you're trying to build. And it creates loyalty because these are people that are going to be invested throughout the whole process of actually you building out your clothing brand. It makes it feel like they're part of something. It makes it feel like they're on a certain path with a group of people. And honestly, it's free marketing. You're the face of your brand. So not only are you promoting your brand, you're promoting your personal brand as well. This is why clothing brands like Peace and Word do so well, because their target audience deeply resonates with not only the clothing brand, but the owner as well. But when it actually comes to posting content, there are two platforms that most people stick to when it comes to posting content. And this is going to be TikTok and Instagram. And now you want to make sure that when it comes to posting content that you're posting 2 to 3 times a day minimum, because when you're first on your clothing brand, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows about you, you have no views on your brand. So you want to make sure that you're posting 2 to 3 times a day so you can get as many views and as many eyes on your clothing brand as possible. Now, if you want to know what type of content to make, 40% of the content you make should be brand story and behind the scenes. So you want to show your design process, you packing orders, your journey, your struggles, why you started your clothing brand, and your future plans for the business. This allows people to feel like they're on a journey or feel like they're part of the process of actually building something with their clothing brand. Secondly, you should show 30% product showcasing. So this is going to be styling videos, how I like to style and wear this hoodie. It could be product details and quality shots, videos, pictures, you unboxing your own product, showing the quality and the packaging experience behind actually shopping with your clothing brand. It could be comparisons to other brands. What makes your clothing brand so unique and why is it better than all these other brands people are seeing? Showing the quality and the authenticity behind your clothing brand. Lastly, this could be lifestyle/value content. This could be 30% of what you post. And this is going to be fashion tips, industry insights, motivational content aligned with your clothing brand, and jacket trends. So for example, for me, for my Christian clothing brand, this could be somebody preaching. Even though it's not really showcasing my clothing brand, it's showing what I'm doing, it still resonates with my audience because they still relate to it either way. And now I'm going to give you guys a strategy and some tips you can use to grow your clothing brand rapidly. I actually had one of my clients go from 0 to 4,500 followers in just 2 weeks following this exact strategy. And that's going to be trial reels. So when you're first starting, you need eyes on you. Like I said earlier, volume is literally key. And now what are trial reels? Trial reels are going to be videos that Instagram pushes out to people that have never seen your products before. So typically when you post on Instagram, it shows your videos to your followers first and then it pushes it out. But trial reels skip the whole process of showing it to your followers first and immediately starts pushing out to new people. So you know that each time you're posting, your video is landing on a new set of eyes every single time. And this is so good because when you post 2 to 3 times a day organically on TikTok and Instagram, it could get saturated really quick. You may see people talk about getting in like 200 view jail on where Instagram and TikTok is pushing out this video. And that's because TikTok and Instagram like to push out quality. 9 times out of 10, if people are posting like 5-10 times a day, it's because they're posting the same thing over and over and over again. You're not providing anything new and you're not providing anything quality on top of that. So trial reels allows you to post 5 to 10 times a day, and it can be whatever you want, and a new set of eyes will be landing on it each time. So you want to make sure that you abuse trial reels on top of actually posting organically 2 to 3 times a day on each platform. But once you have a good organic and you're posting so many times a day, now you can get into actually running and scaling your clothing brand off of paid advertisement. So before we go into actually running ads, I'm going to tell you the importance of actually posting organically first before getting into ads. A lot of mistake people make is thinking they can hop into this space and immediately start running ads and scaling their clothing brand, but that's a terrible idea, and I'm going to tell you why. So when you first start your clothing brand, you need organic validation first. So you need proof that people actually want your products, understanding of what messaging works, social proof. It allows you to redefine your website based off of real customer behavior, and it gives you more cash flow to overall fund the ads when it first comes to you starting. So organic is literally amazing because the traffic is free and ads cost money. So you want to make sure that you can get your first 20 to 50 sales organically before you scale with ads, because at the end of the day, if it won't work, if the creatives and what you're posting won't work organically and is not connecting to your audience freely, then when you put money behind the same creatives you're posting organically, it's not going to work because you just use paid ads to push what you're already pushing out there. So if you're pushing something out there for free and it doesn't work, what makes you think that putting money behind the video is going to make a difference? It's not. So you want to make sure that you're able to get your first 20 to 50 sales organically before then running into paid ads. Literally, my student here who went from 0 to 70K a month, before he started scaling his clothing brand with ads, he was able to make 12K organically first. And then that's when in month 2 to 3, he started factoring in paid ads and he was able to jump from 12K to 70K because he was putting money behind a structure and a system that actually already works. So you'll know you're ready for ads when you have already made like 20 to 50 sales organically first. You have good customer reviews, you have good social proof, you have a website that actually converts at 1 to 3%, and you already have around roughly $500 to $1,000 to really test with. So when it actually comes to running ads, I want to tell you some metrics first that tells you whether an ad is good or not. So first you want to look at cost per click, and that's how much you're paying for each person to click your ad. A good cost per click is going to be roughly 30 cents to 80 cents. Okay, could be 80 cents to $1.50 per click, and anything over $1.50 per click is going to be a bad ad. So you want to make sure that you're spending at least money as possible to get each click on your ad. Next is going to be click-through rate, and this is going to be the percentage of people that actually watch your ad and the people that actually click it to go to your website. So I say a good click-through rate is anywhere above 2%. An okay click-through rate is going to be 1 to 2%, and then a bad click-through rate is going to be anything under 0.8%. Because if you have a bad click-through rate, that means your hook isn't grabbing the attention in the first 1 to 3 seconds. So you want to make sure that you have a good hook, and you could actually create something called a hook rate in your Meta Ads Manager that shows whether your creatives are good or not, but that's something we'll get into another day. Next is going to be your ROAS, and this is going to be your return on ad spend, and this is probably the most important metric that people look at when it comes to running a clothing brand, because this determines whether your ads are even profitable. So a typically good like standard ROAS across all businesses are going to be roughly a 3x ROAS, and that means basically for each dollar you spend on ads, you make back $3. So that means you're making 3 times your money. And typically a break-even ROAS when you're first starting off could be anywhere from 2 to roughly like 2.25, maybe 2.5. We want to make sure you keep it in that 2 to 2.25 range. That way you know that once you hit that good 3x ROAS, no matter what you're doing, your ads are profitable. And then a bad ROAS could be anything under 2. If a ROAS is under 2, then you want to turn it off because it's not performing well at all. And some ads you could test are going to be UGC style ads, which means user generated content ads. So people trying on the clothes, reviewing the product, etc. Founder story, so you talking to the camera, talking about your brand, your story, showing the product and why you started the brand. And this is going to be lifestyle, so quick cuts, trending sounds of someone wearing and styling your clothes in cool locations, no talking, just vibes, good audio to support your clothing brand, and maybe even some text overlay too. Before we continue, I am going to have to stop you there. I'm going to show you guys what my personal ads manager looks like so you can see the creatives I'm running and basically what I look for when it comes to scaling creatives and when to cut off creatives. So this is my ads manager over a 40 days period, and I'm going to show you guys what all these metrics mean and what you should look for. I'm going to tell you certain things that you should track and pay attention to when running actual ads. So once you actually set up your first campaign and you start testing and now it's time to scale, this is what you want to track. So we're first going to look at cost per click. Basically, this is how much you're paying for each person to click on your ad. So this is personally what my cost per click looks like. And cost per click is anywhere from 30 to 80 cents. If you can get an ad creative under 30 cents, then you're absolutely killing it. An okay cost per click, like it's not terrible, but it's manageable, is anywhere from 80 cents to $1.50. And then if your ad creative is getting an over $1.50, and that's when you absolutely want to cut it, because you're paying too much money just to get a person to even click on your ad. Next is going to be your click-through rate. So here you can see personally this is my click-through rate. And so whenever it comes to click-through rate, means the amount of people that are viewing your ad versus the amount of people that are actually clicking on your ad. So anywhere from a 1.5 to 3% means you have an absolute killer ad creative. You want to keep scaling that. Anything from 0.8 to 1.5% means that it's okay. It's not outstanding. It's not the craziest, but it's still performing well. And then anything under that 0.8%, you probably want to kill it. For me personally, I like to kill my creative once it falls under 1%. But if it's still at 0.8% and it's still converting good, then you can keep it. And then now the third metric we want to look at is ROAS. This is probably the most important metric because it doesn't matter how good a creative is if it doesn't convert people. Now, if you do have a crazy high, if you do have a super low ROAS, but your cost per click is low and your click-through rate is high, then that means it is a website problem. So if your ad creatives are performing well, you have a low cost per click, you have a good click-through rate, but you're not converting, that means the problem isn't your ads, it's your website. ROAS is your return on ad spend. So for example, if I spend $1 on an ad and it makes me back $3 through a purchase, that means I have a 3x ROAS. So here, for example, over this 40-day period on ads, I was able to spend almost 16,000 and I was at a full ROAS. So that means off of this 40-day period, I was able to make back roughly $61,000 with my ads, which is a 4x ROAS. So I say good ROAS is anything higher than 3. This is what most agencies you may partner up try to scale as a good ROAS. This is what you see majority in people's ads manager. Anything above a 3 ROAS means it's performing well, because 9 times out of 10, if it's at a 3 ROAS, that means you're profitable. Next will be your break-even ROAS. For most people, typically when first starting off, the break-even ROAS is roughly 2 to 2.5. That's basically how much you're spending on ads to break even. So for me, for example, my break-even ROAS would be like roughly a 1.8, which means if my ROAS was at a 1.8 for the day, then that means I made absolutely no money. Like, I was not profitable at all. I just broke even to where I didn't lose money, but I didn't make money either. So, but for that, each brand is different. You do want to calculate your own personal break-even ROAS. I will go into that later. And then the bad ROAS is anything under 2. If you're under a 2 ROAS for any ad creative, then that means it's not performing well at all. But like I said, at the end of the day, if your ad metrics are good, but your ROAS is bad, then that means it's not an ad creative problem, it's your website. So you want to go into your website funnel and fix whatever is going on there. So Meta does operate heavily based off of different ad creatives. They operate heavy off of different ad angles. So you want to test different ad angles. This could be founder story, UGC style content, or even lifestyle content, and maybe even static ads. And when it comes to videos, your hook is everything. Here you can see my stop scroll rate on certain ad creatives. This is a metric you have to custom make. All you want to do is go into your columns. You want to hit customize columns. You want to create a custom ad metric and just do 3-second video plays divided by impressions. This will be your stop scroll rate. I say anything above a 20% is good. These are static ads, so they are just images, so they won't really have a good stop scroll rate because it's not a video. But as far as video campaigns and things are running, you want your stop scroll rate to be at least above a 20%. And when it comes to actually testing and first creating that first campaign, you want to start off with roughly $30 to $50 per day, and you want to let them run for about 3 to 4 days, and then you want to kill the losers, and you want to kill the losers that have either a bad metrics when it comes to cost per click and click-through rate, and any losers that has under a 2 ROAS because they're not converting well. And they want to scale the winners by 20 to 30% every couple of days. I say every other day. So first, week 1, you want to start at $50 a day, and then you want to cut the bad creatives. Next week, you up that to $75 a day, cut. And then week 3, you can go to $100 a day, cut. Week 4, you can go to $150 a day. And now that's just a safe route. You can scale more aggressively. Like for me, for example, I'm going to give you guys a walkthrough. All right, so for example, we're going to go to yesterday when I started a new ad campaign. So right now my ROAS isn't good because I stopped running ads for 3 weeks. So Meta does have to kind of relearn and re-optimize. I did start a new ad campaign at roughly $250 a day, and it performed well. I had a 3.9 ROAS. My click-through rate was a 1.2. My cost per click was 41 cents. And so since it was already converting at a super high rate, I spent $250 to make back almost $1,000. I bumped this up aggressively from $250 to $400 a day. Now this can tank ad performance, so you want to make sure that you're doing it just. I increased it that much because I am testing over 30 ad creatives in this campaign. So you want to make sure that when you're actually testing and scaling your ad creatives, you're doing so in a good manner. If you do want to test aggressively, just make sure you have the money to kind of back up those first couple bad days to push for those good days. But with all that being said, you've seen my ads manager, you see what I've personally done. So let's get back to the main video. All right, so now that you're doing all that, you're making sales, you're pulling in money, maybe you're at 10, 20, 30K a month, but you're working 6 to 8, maybe even 10-hour days. So you want to make sure that you're dishing that work out, because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of you probably starting a business in the first place is to achieve that financial freedom to where you don't want to work so much. So you want to make sure that your clothing brand is working and making money for you, and that you're not working for your clothing brand, basically. Typically, people face a scaling problem, and basically what happens is that you grow, you get more orders, and you spend all day packaging, answering DMs, managing ads, handling customer service, and you become a slave to your business, and that's not what you want to do. So that's not the goal. The goal for you is to build a business that works for you and not for it. So what you want to do is hire a team, and this is because you can't do everything forever. So here are some things or some people you should hire when it comes to actually scaling your clothing brand. So number one is going to be a virtual assistant, which is a VA for a clothing brand. And you could probably do this when you're at 5 to 10K a month. And if you go the route of hiring somebody from the Philippines, you can really hire these people for as little to $3 an hour. So that's why it works so well. And basically what they do is that they answer DMs, they handle returns, track orders, and answer emails. And some places you can find these people off of are going to be, you can find these people off of online jobs or Fiverr. And like I said, they're so good because you can really hire these people for as little as $3, and you can work your way upwards. So by hiring a VA, this really frees up like 10 to 15 hours per week immediately. It's so good. And the next thing is going to be a 3PL fulfillment center. So whenever you're at, like, I say roughly the 20K a month mark, you want to hire a logistics centers to actually pack and ship your orders out for you. So they store your inventory, they track your inventory, and basically just handle the whole fulfillment process. And these are going to be people like ShipBob, ShipMonk, Fulfillite. I personally use a 3PL called Packin'. They're super good. But anyways, all fulfillments work. You just want to make sure that you choose one that has good rates that fit your clothing brand. Another person you can hire is a ads manager. So this is someone to handle your ads for you. So whenever you're spending over $300 a day on ads, for example, you could hire somebody for like roughly $1,500 to $3,000 a month, or for 10 to 15% of what you make off the ads. And basically all they do is manage campaigns, test creatives, and they scale winners. You can find these people off of Upwork, referrals, or even Instagram, for example. And also you can use AI to handle a lot of tools. So you can use ChatGPT and Claude for things like writing product descriptions, responding to customer FAQs, creating email sequences, and generating content ideas. Klaviyo is also smart because it optimizes email times. Canva AI is good because it can create you graphic designs you can use for your clothing brand to run ads. And Runaway or Descript is good for video editing. And this can save you another 5 to 10 hours a week easily. And with all that being said, if you want a more in-depth guide process on how you can do this and how I did it, I created a free training video that you can go watch on exactly how I built my clothing brand up to $900,000 in sales just last year. But with that being said, a clothing brand and running it is actually a long game. A lot of clothing brands die from inconsistency. They focus on systems and not hype, and they don't know that your brand is overall the most important aspect, and then your product, and then ads. They try to hop into things straight with ads, and they're not following a framework that'll take them from 0 to 20K to 50K to potentially 100K months. They try to jump into getting those big numbers from your start. And honestly, with almost no business framework, you can jump into those big numbers right from the jump. Everything needs data. And in order to actually grow and improve your business, you need data. So if you watched this video and you've stuck the whole way through, you grabbed your paper, you took notes, and you collected data on all the things I was telling you on how to start and run your clothing brand, then I know that you're different from a majority of the people who probably saw this video and scrolled past it, or maybe clicked and only watched halfway through. And because you're that person, I like you, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be willing to work with you because I only work with people who are motivated and they have that drive. They can take in knowledge and information, and they're willing to work hard to get to where they want to be. I'm ready to lock you with people who are ready to turn that passion and that desire into actual hard work effort to bring in results that work. I already mentioned some of my clients here and there in the video that have had the same work ethic, that are doing good, that are doing 20K, 50K, and even now 70K months. And these people are no different from you. Just like you, they had the ambition, they had the passion, they had the desire, and they turn that desire into hard work and effort to bring in actual real results. Now, I'm going to give you a rundown on what working with me actually looks like. Basically, what we do is that we help you set up your brand from scratch. We connect you to suppliers and designers for top tier clothing brands. We'll run up your content platform and make sure that it's actually built around your target audience and your niche. And we'll integrate paid ad flywheels that help me personally go from 5K a month to 30K a month to 50K a month, all the way to me doing almost $170,000 a month. It's a full one-on-one experience throughout where I'll entirely guide you throughout your journey on actually starting and scaling your clothing brand, all the way up to the 6-figure milestone without having to mess around and waste time and money trying to figure out everything on your own. Because the last thing you want to do is waste time going through every single struggle, headache, problem building out your clothing brand. And I know because those are the same problems that I faced. So off of my experience, you want to skip all the hassle and headache and go into actually what works to actually scale and grow your clothing brand. So if you're interested, below I left a full free training video on exactly how I scaled my clothing brand up to $900,000 at just 17 years old, breaking down every single last step on exactly how I did it and how you can do it too. And below that video, you'll also be able to fill out a form that'll allow my team to come and look at your application and see if you qualify for working one-on-one with me. Aside from that, if you have any questions or you have any answers, my DMs are always open. I'll leave my socials below this video, and I look forward to seeing you on that next level where we can stand side by side as clothing brand partners. But love y'all.